There comes a moment in life when the fog lifts, not gently, violently. One day you were moving with the crowd, trusting the rules, believing the stories you were told, and then something snaps. You start noticing patterns. You see through smiles that aren't real. You hear words that don't match actions. You recognize cycles, manipulation, self-deception, both in others and in yourself. At first it feels like power, like awakening, like you've finally opened your eyes. But slowly, almost cruelly, that awakening begins to feel less like freedom and more like a weight you can't put down. You think more. You question everything. You replay conversations in your head, analyze motives, dissect emotions. What once felt simple now feels layered, complex, exhausting. Joy doesn't hit the same because you can see what's behind it. Pain cuts deeper because you understand where it comes from. You can't unsee what you've seen. And the world around you hasn't changed, but you have. That's when the trap begins. Carl Jung warned about this long before social media, before constant information, before endless self-analysis became normal. He understood that consciousness is a double-edged sword. To become more aware is to step out of the comfort of instinct. The unconscious once carried you effortlessly. Now your mind wants explanations for everything. You stop acting naturally, you hesitate, you second-guess, you observe yourself living instead of actually living. And here's the part no one talks about, the loneliness. When you grow more conscious, you start feeling out of sync. Conversations feel shallow, distractions feel empty, the things that once satisfied you no longer work. You don't fit neatly into the old boxes anymore, but you don't yet know where you belong. So you stand in between, too aware to be asleep, too overwhelmed to be free. This isn't weakness. This is the cost of seeing clearly. You might start asking yourself, why do I feel heavier when I know more? Because awareness strips away illusions, and illusions were doing a lot of emotional labor for you. They made life feel safe, predictable, simple. Now you see uncertainty everywhere. You see your own contradictions. You see how often fear controls decisions. You see how much of society runs on unconscious patterns. And once you see it, you feel responsible. That responsibility can feel crushing. This is where many people get stuck. They mistake overthinking for wisdom. They confuse constant self-awareness with growth. But Jung understood something crucial. Consciousness that isn't grounded becomes a prison. When awareness is not balanced with action, instinct, and courage, it turns inward and starts eating itself. You don't feel alive, you feel hyper-aware. You don't feel powerful, you feel paralyzed. And yet, this stage you're in is not a mistake, it's an initiation. Every transformation begins with discomfort. Every expansion of consciousness feels like disorientation before it feels like strength. You're not broken because you're struggling. You're struggling because your mind is outgrowing its old limits. The danger is not becoming conscious. The danger is stopping there. The danger is letting awareness turn into withdrawal, cynicism, or emotional numbness. The mind will try to protect you by pulling you away from life. But life isn't meant to be observed from a distance. It's meant to be engaged with, messily, imperfectly, courageously. This moment is asking something of you, not to go back to sleep, not to drown in thought, but to learn how to carry awareness without letting it crush your spirit. To let consciousness sharpen you, not soften you. To turn insight into movement, because clarity without action becomes anxiety. Awareness without direction becomes despair. You're standing at a threshold. One path leads to endless analysis, isolation, and quiet exhaustion. The other leads to integration, strength, and a deeper, grounded sense of purpose. The difference isn't what you know, it's what you choose to do with what you know. When awareness deepens, it doesn't just illuminate your strengths, it drags hidden parts of you into the light. The parts you'd rather deny, the impulses you were taught to suppress, the emotions you labeled as bad, weak, or unacceptable. Carl Jung called this the shadow. And it is not your enemy, it is your unfinished power. But when you become conscious without courage, the shadow doesn't integrate. It rebels. At first it shows up subtly. A flash of anger you didn't expect. Envy towards someone you believe you're more evolved than. Fear that contradicts your self-image. You feel ashamed of these reactions because they don't match the person you think you are. So you push them down. You intellectualize them. You spiritualize over them. You tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way. And that's when the trap tightens. The shadow does not disappear when ignored. It goes underground, it waits. And from there, it begins to control your life in ways you don't recognize. The anger you deny turns into passive aggression. The fear you suppress becomes procrastination. The desire you reject turns into resentment. Jung's warning was clear and brutal. What you refuse to face in yourself will rule you from the dark, not loudly, but consistently. Highly conscious people fall into this trap more than anyone, because once you understand psychology, morality, or spirituality, you start building an identity around being aware, good, or evolved. You don't want to admit that you're still capable of selfishness, cruelty, jealousy, or weakness. But denying those traits doesn't make you pure. It makes you divided. And a divided mind is an exhausted mind. This inner division drains your energy. You're constantly monitoring yourself, correcting yourself, filtering yourself. You're not just living, you're supervising your own existence. And the cost of that control is authenticity. You lose your edge. Your instincts dull. Your confidence weakens. Because deep down, you know you're not being fully honest with yourself. Jung didn't teach people to destroy the shadow. He taught them to confront it, to sit with it, to listen to it. Because hidden inside your darkest reactions are truths you need for growth. Anger reveals boundaries that were crossed. Envy points to unlived potential. Fear exposes what truly matters to you. The shadow is not evil, it's information. Raw, uncomfortable, essential information. Here's the shift that changes everything. The moment you stop judging your shadow, it stops controlling you. When you look at your darker impulses and say, this is also part of me, you reclaim power that was leaking out through shame and denial. Integration doesn't make you dangerous, it makes you whole. And wholeness is strength. This process is not soft. It demands brutal honesty. It demands that you stop pretending to be who you think you should be and start accepting who you actually are. That means acknowledging your capacity for destruction without acting it out. It means recognizing he keeps moving without you. This is the hidden danger of heightened consciousness, paralysis disguised as intelligence. You start believing that caution is wisdom, that hesitation is depth, that waiting for certainty is maturity. But deep down, something feels wrong. You feel stuck, restless, frustrated, not because you don't know enough, but because you know too much and act too little. Jung understood that consciousness must serve life, not replace it. When awareness becomes disconnected from action, it turns against you. You stop trusting your instincts. You override your impulses. You analyze your emotions instead of feeling them. You dissect your desires until they lose their fire. And slowly your inner world becomes louder than the outer one. You're no longer living. You're watching yourself live. This is how confidence erodes. Not through failure, but through endless preparation. Not through mistakes, but through the fear of making them. Every time you don't act, your nervous system learns a lesson. Hesitation is safer than courage, and over time that lesson hardens into identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who thinks deeply, rather than someone who moves decisively. But depth without motion is stagnation. Perfectionism feeds this trap. You want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect version of yourself before you begin. But perfection is not a standard. It's a delay tactic. It keeps you trapped in your head while your potential rusts. Life does not reward the most prepared. It rewards the most engaged. Clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of it. Look closely at the moments you regret most. They're rarely the moments you acted and failed. They're the moments you didn't act at all. The conversations you avoided. The risks you calculated into silence. The opportunities you overthought until they disappeared. Regret is born from paralysis, not imperfection. Your mind will tell you it's protecting you. It will say, wait until you're ready, wait until you're healed, wait until you're sure. But readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision, and certainty is not a prerequisite for movement, it's a byproduct of it. The people you admire didn't move because they were fearless, they moved because they were willing to act while afraid. This is where instinct must be reclaimed, not reckless impulse, but grounded, embodied action. The kind that says, I don't have all the answers, but I'll take the next step anyway. Small actions shatter psychological paralysis. A single imperfect move sends a message to your system, I am capable. I am alive, I am not frozen. Momentum is medicine. Action reorganizes the mind. When you move, your thoughts follow. When you engage, anxiety loses its grip. When you choose, even imperfectly, you restore a sense of agency that no amount of thinking can give you. You don't need to solve your entire life. You need to move 1 inch forward. And here's the truth that cuts through the noise. Life is not meant to be understood before it's lived. It's meant to be lived first and understood along the way. Your awareness is not meant to keep you safe from experience. It's meant to help you learn from it. You were not given consciousness to stand on the sidelines. You were given it to act with intention, to choose with eyes open, to fall and rise with awareness intact. Paralysis is not depth. Movement is. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the refusal to let fear decide. So stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop negotiating with doubt. Stop mistaking stillness for wisdom. Take the step, say the thing. Begin where you are, as you are, because the fastest way out of your head is back into your life, and the moment you move, everything starts to change. There is a secret that few ever learn, though it is written into the very structure of the human psyche. Awareness alone is not power. Consciousness is a tool, a lens, a spark. But unless it is fused with courage, emotion, and action, it becomes little more than a mirror reflecting your own hesitation back at you. Carl Jung called this the path of individuation, the journey to become whole, to integrate all aspects of yourself into one unstoppable force. It is the path from fragmented knowledge to living wisdom, from paralysis to mastery, from awareness to presence. And it is where true power begins. Individuation is not about being perfect. It is not about moral purity, intellectual superiority, or emotional invulnerability. It is about embracing the totality of who you are, the light and the dark, the joy and the rage, the conscious mind and the unconscious currents that pull beneath the surface. This integration is what transforms awareness into action, fear into resolve, doubt into clarity. When you accept yourself fully, you stop leaking energy into shame, self-denial, and comparison. Every ounce of energy that was wasted on avoidance, judgment, or pretense suddenly becomes fuel for creation, for transformation, for unstoppable movement. Think about it. The world does not reward the person who only thinks, who only understands. It rewards the one who lives what they know, the one who has faced their fears, confronted their shadow, and walked through uncertainty anyway. The one who doesn't just process reality but shapes it. Jung's concept of individuation is a blueprint for turning insight into mastery. Awareness becomes your sword, courage becomes your armor, and your integrated self becomes a force no circumstance can shake. Integration is not a comfortable process. It is messy. It confronts you with the parts of yourself you have ignored, denied, or hidden. Your shadow will surface in raw, unfiltered ways, demanding acknowledgement. The envy, the rage, the fear, the desire you once buried, it all demands recognition. And here is the transformative truth. These are not weaknesses, they are your compass. They are signals pointing toward untapped potential, hidden creativity, unclaimed power. Every uncomfortable emotion is a message, a spark, a nudge toward wholeness. To embrace individuation is to stop pretending you are already enlightened or enough, and to start being real. Real about your capacity for love and for destruction. Real about your mistakes and your brilliance. Real about your desires and your doubts. The world will try to sell you comfort, conformity, and approval, but none of that leads to wholeness. Wholeness is built in fire, the fire of facing yourself without flinching, of taking responsibility for what you see inside, and of daring to act anyway. Practical steps follow naturally when you commit to integration. Begin with reflection. Journal not only about your thoughts, but also about the impulses you fear. Express creatively what cannot yet be spoken. Paint it, write it, move it through your body. Observe patterns in your relationships. Where do you project your shadow? Where do you avoid responsibility? Confront it gently but firmly. Let the unconscious teach you, rather than controlling you. These are not small steps. They are the scaffolding of transformation. And motivation comes when you realize the reward is real. The reward is not external approval, not fleeting happiness, not a sense of safety. The reward is you, whole, alive, and unbreakable. Once the mind, heart, and shadow are integrated, indecision dissolves. Fear loses its ability to manipulate. Regret fades because you are no longer running from life. You are moving with it, fully present, fully conscious, fully alive. The greatest leaders, creators, and innovators of history did not wait for life to be safe, clear, or fair. They walked into the fire of their own inner chaos, faced it, and emerged stronger. This is what individuation promises, the transformation of awareness from a burden into an engine, from paralysis into momentum, from knowledge into living power. Here is the call embedded in Jung's teaching. Stop striving to be superficially enlightened. Stop waiting for clarity to arrive like a visitor. Stop denying parts of yourself that feel unacceptable, uncomfortable, or dark. Instead, integrate, act, and live fully. Let your consciousness guide your actions, let your instincts fuel your courage, and let your shadow teach you where your untapped power lies. When you do this, fear becomes fuel, pain becomes insight, and life itself becomes the arena in which you prove every day that consciousness can be strength, not a cage. You were not born to simply observe life. You were born to embody it, with every shadowed corner of your mind, every raw impulse of your soul, and every ounce of your awareness fully alive, fully integrated, and unstoppable. This is your path. This is your power. This is your individuation. The moment of integration is not the end of the journey. It is the point where your life truly begins. You have awakened, faced your shadow, broken through paralysis, and begun to act with awareness. But awareness alone is a responsibility, not a destination. Consciousness demands more than thought. It demands courage, decisiveness, and relentless engagement with life itself. This is the ultimate call, to stop hiding behind insight, to stop standing on the sidelines of your own existence, and to step into the full force of who you are. The danger of becoming conscious, as Jung warned, is not in seeing too much, but in doing too little. Every day, highly aware individuals stumble into the trap of observation without action. They analyze, reflect, dissect, and plan. But the world, owes not bend to analysis. The world moves, shifts, and acts while they hesitate. And every moment spent frozen in contemplation is energy wasted, potential unrealized, and opportunities missed. Knowledge without movement is wasted power. Awareness without integration into life becomes anxiety, indecision, and despair. This is where responsibility enters. Your consciousness is not meant to be a comfort. It is meant to be a tool. It is meant to sharpen your life, ignite your purpose, and fuel your actions. It is meant to illuminate the path forward and compel you to walk it, even when the way is uncertain, even when fear lingers, even when the world resists. You are not given clarity to stand still. You were given clarity to act consciously, boldly, relentlessly. Every insight you gain, every shadow you face, every hesitation you overcome builds momentum. But only when paired with action does that momentum become unstoppable. Look at the great figures of history. They were not flawless, they were not free from doubt, and they were not immune to fear. What separated them from the rest was the willingness to move while afraid, to choose while uncertain, and to engage fully with the life around them. Action transforms potential into power, thought into legacy, and awareness into influence. The call to action is immediate. Stop hiding behind your own mind. Stop waiting for life to hand you clarity, safety, or certainty. The perfect moment does not exist. The perfect plan is an illusion. The perfect version of yourself is a myth. What exists is now, this moment, this body, this mind, and the choice to step forward despite everything that says wait. The decision to act is not reckless, it is necessary. It is the bridge between insight and impact. The weight of consciousness can feel heavy, but it is also a gift. It allows you to see patterns others miss, recognize opportunities others overlook, and feel the pulse of life with a depth others cannot access. The challenge is to channel that gift, to convert awareness into tangible outcomes, to move from seeing the world to shaping it. This requires courage, decisiveness, and faith in your capacity to navigate uncertainty. It requires knowing that life is not a rehearsal, and waiting for perfect timing is surrendering to stagnation. Even small actions compound into monumental shifts. One decision, taken with clarity and conviction, sparks the next. One honest confrontation, one creative expression, one step outside comfort, begins a cascade that changes not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Momentum is contagious, and courage is magnetic. When you act despite fear, you awaken power in yourself and others. The paradox of consciousness is revealed here. Clarity becomes a fuel, not a burden, the moment it drives you into life. The final truth is unavoidable. Life will not wait. Fear, doubt, and hesitation will always whisper, but they are not stronger than your will to act. Every day you wait is a day you allow potential to decay. Every opportunity ignored is a lesson postponed. Every moment spent in analysis instead of engagement is energy surrendered to inertia. But the moment you choose action, everything shifts. You are no longer a spectator. You are a participant, a creator, a force that moves with purpose and power. Carl Jung's ultimate lesson is, simple, yet profound consciousness is not a luxury, it is a responsibility. It is the gift and the challenge, the spark and the fire. You cannot turn it off. You cannot retreat into ignorance and hope for peace. The only way forward is to step into life fully, to act with courage, to integrate every shadow, to transform every insight into deliberate, meaningful movement. Awareness without action is a prison. Action with awareness is freedom. So step forward, speak your truth, move even when afraid, choose even when uncertain. The fire of consciousness is within you, not to burn you, but to forge you, not to paralyze you, but to propel you. You were not born to merely understand life. You were born to live it, shape it, and conquer it with every ounce of insight and courage you possess. This is your awakening. This is your responsibility. This is your power.